Hi everyone, my name is Kat, or the Fairy Librarian, and welcome to a new video. Today I will be sharing my May TBR with you. I'm gonna change the way slightly in which I frame my TBRs, because usually what I do is I have like an actual TBR, and then I have a bunch of books that I've checked out from the library that weren't necessarily plans, but I have them checked out, so they're also kind of things that I want to be reading soonish. But they're not as high priority, and like I don't mind returning things to the library unread and getting them back later if I don't get to them. But I sort of like mix them in with like the rest of the TBR before this, so I think I'm gonna change that, and I'm gonna do like separate those out. So I'm gonna start with a few books that I have rolling over from April because I have a couple of those. Then I'll go over like my TBR. Then I have a few books that were initially part of the TBR, but then the TBR got way out of hand and way too big. So there's 3 of them that I set as MBR that technically I would like to read it, but they're like slightly lower priority than the actual TBR books. And then I'm gonna have just things that I've checked out from the library currently, both physical and digital. So I'll talk about those. So I'll start with the 4 books I have rolling over. The first one is Orpheus Builds a Girl by Heather Parry. This is a literary sci-fi gothic psychological thriller historical retelling of Orpheus meets Frankenstein. And we have 2 POVs. We have a doctor who wants to find a way to conquer death and to make people immortal and to even bring people back to life. And our other POV is Gabriela, who is a Cuban immigrant in the United States. And then her little sister gets sick. And this doctor starts helping them because they can't really afford to go to the actual hospital. And this doctor wants to help this girl because he once got a dream that this girl is his promised bride and that they are meant for each other. And so he wants them so they can be together and marry and whatever. And it's really messed up. But it's enjoyable is a weird word to use in this context, but I'm liking it. But it's really messed up. I am about third through this one. And then the second rollover is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. This is a retelling of the Trojan War. I'm really liking the narrative structure of it. It sort of centers the women, like the Trojan women, but other women as well. I think there's a few Greek women as well that are gonna show up later on. So yeah, I'm reading that. I'm quite enjoying it. I'm about 1/5 of the way through. Then I have 2 that I have barely started. First, I have Dreaming the Eagle by Amanda Scott, the first book in the Boudica quartet. As you can see, I've barely started it. But I would like to read this. I tried reading it last year, but I put it down because it just wasn't the right time, wasn't in the mood for this. But I'm giving it another try because it is very well written and I did like it. And so I kept thinking about it after I put it down. So now is the time to pick it back up and hopefully finish it this time. Then I also have The Man Who Died Twice, which is the second book in the Thursday Murder Club. I've also not very far in. So this is a cozy mystery series about a group of people in a retirement community who meet up every Thursday to solve some murders. So yeah, this is the second book. I really like the characters in this. That's what I read it for. So I want to read this one as well this month. Then for the actual TBR, I have Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. This is the first book in the Seven Waters trilogy. It's a retelling of the Wild Swans, I believe. Celtic inspired fantasy. I'm reading this for book club, hosted by Kirsten over at the channel Reading Nymph, in her Discord. We have a book club every month. I don't always join, it depends on what other stuff I have planned and what the book is. But I have been wanting to read this one for quite a while. It has also been recommended to me personally by a subscriber. I believe it was author J. Creighton Smith who said I would really like this. So we'll see. I'm going to try and read it this month. I'm really, really excited. Then another last minute commitment read, also with Kirsten from Reading Nymph. I was watching her TBR video yesterday, and she mentioned A Murder Was Announced. And I own that book, and I've been wanting to read it for a little while, but just never got to it. And I left a comment saying, hey, would you like to buddy read A Murder Was Announced? And she said yes. So we're going to be buddy reading this. I know it's it's by Agatha Christie, so it's a mystery. It's one of the Miss Marple books. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I believe we have some murders and then in a newspaper or something before the murder happens. They're on this day a murder is going to happen there, blah, blah, blah. And then they actually happen. I think that's the premise, but I'm not entirely sure. But I want to read it. I own the book. It's at my parents' house. I don't have it here, but I actually bought it for my grandma because she's a great Agatha Christie fan. But I have it. Then I have a few sequels. I want to get to, first of all, Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, the sequel to Throne of Glass, which I read in April and I quite enjoyed. It wasn't a new favorite, but I had fun, so I want to continue on with the series. Bethany over at Beautifully Bookish Bethany is hosting a read-along for this series. I'm behind. Actually, Crown of Midnight was supposed to be read in April, and then this month it was Assassin's Blade. But I'm behind. I don't think I'll be able to read both. This month I plan to catch up in July because I have a lot of time in July. So I think I'll be able to read both or two books for the read-along then. So I'm going to be 1 month behind until July. And I'm fine with that. So, Throne of Glass, if you don't know, is about Selena, who is an assassin. And in the first book, she has to enter this competition to become the king's assassin. And there's some trials and there's some romance and intrigue at court. And you know, it was fun. So I would like to see how the story continues. Then I also have a novella, and that is When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Nhi Vo. This is the second book in the Singing Hills cycle. I read the first one, which is The Empress of Salt and Sorrows. No, The Empress of Salt and Fortune. I always mix up that title with House of Salt and Sorrows, but it's The Empress of Salt and Fortune. I read that one in March, and I really loved it. I liked the structure of it. I liked how it's written. So we have this one. They're not like one continuous story, but they follow Cleric Chi, who, well, in the first one, he went to this house of the late Empress to look at objects and like record history. I'm not sure what this one is about, but I really like the writing. So I know that I'm not gonna dislike it. At least I hope. I'd be very disappointed if this one is not a hit, but I have faith. So I think I'm gonna really enjoy this. It's also like really short, so it should be a pretty quick read. Then the last one on my TBR is quite the chonker, and that is The Bone-Shard War by Andrea Stewart, the third and final book in the Drowning Empire trilogy. I really enjoyed the first two books, and I have been putting this one off because I've heard some mixed things. I've heard quite a few people being disappointed in this last book, but I really want to read it. So I'm gonna now finish off the series. But this follows a few POVs. But like the two sort of main ones are Lyn and Jovis. And Lyn is the daughter of the Emperor. But the Emperor won't teach her the magic, which is bone shard magic, so you can use a little bone shard of people to power these constructs to do various tasks. Like he won't teach her the magic until she has her memory back. So she tries to get her memory back, and we discover some things along the way. And then Jovis is a sort of thief, smuggler type person who has been saving children from tithing, which is this ceremony where they take the bone shard, because if your bone shard is used, it drains the energy from you. And so we have some, the plot, a lot happens since then. It's like the setup of the first book. Especially the second one was like more politics heavy. So I hope that this one will have some great politicking as well, because I really enjoy that. But we'll see. I read these books fairly quickly. They're very compulsively readable for me. So it is quite chunky, but I don't think that it'll be impossible to read this month. So those were the TBR books. As I already said, I have 3 MBR books. The first one being A Fragile Enchantment by Alison Saft. This is a historical fantasy romance about a dressmaker who is hired to make a dress for the royal wedding, but then she falls in love with the prince, who is the groom, because it's a political marriage, not a love marriage, and romance happens. So I have heard some good things. I haven't heard too many people talk about it, but what I've heard has been really good. And I love the cover. So I would like to get to it, but I don't know if I will. We'll see. Then I have another sequel or another ending to a series, and that is A Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim, the sequel to Six Crimson Cranes. It's a duology. It's only 2 books. I've also heard some not so great things about this one, and so because of that, I have been putting it off. But I really want to know how the story continues, and I really, really, really loved the first book, and it's been a year now since I've read it. I read it in April of 2023. So I should really get my act together and read the second book. So yeah, this is another Wild Swan retelling. Actually, this would pair really nicely with Daughter of the Forest, now that I think about it. But then the final book of the MBR is Morgan Is My Name by Sophie Keach. This is an Arthurian legend retelling, the first book in the Morgan Le Fay series. The second book comes out later this year. So I'd like to... That's a dishwasher. Apologies. I would like to read it before the release of the second book. So yeah, I feel like April and May is a time of the year where I'm really feeling like whimsical reads, historical reads, retellings, and I feel like this has the potential to hit all 3 of them. Like, I know it's a retelling, and I'm pretty sure it's historical as well. I don't know if it's going to be whimsical, but you know, we'll see. And then the final category, I'm gonna try to speed run this because I have to leave really soon. This is the other books that I have checked out from the library. I'll start with the digital ones and then move on to the physical ones. So first, I have I Hope Doesn't Find You by Anne Liang, which is a YA contemporary about a girl who every night she sits to her computer and writes these angry emails where she says what she thinks of people, like what she really thinks, and like all the things that she has to keep in during the day. She never sends them until one day they accidentally do get sent. And so she has to navigate that. Then I have Second Chance Pass by Robin Carr, the 5th book in the Virgin River series, which if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I absolutely love the series, so I would like to continue. Then I have Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn, the 4th book in the Bridgerton series, and it's about Penelope and Colin. I love Penelope, so I really want her story, but this series has been a little bit of a mixed bag for me, so I hope it's gonna be good. Then I have physically 2 nonfiction books about autism, because reasons. I got really interested recently because I am going through the process of getting a formal autism diagnosis. I am pretty sure that I have it, and so I've been sort of like self-diagnosed for a little while, but now I'm going through the process of getting a formal diagnosis, or it's gonna be like start next week. So I fell into a bit of a rabbit hole and I have 2 books. So I have Asperger's by Rudy Simone, which is about how a lot of autism traits, or like Asperger syndrome more specifically, manifests itself in women, because we often speak about it in terms of like men. So yeah, and then I have Autisme is niet thuis met geweld, which is a Dutch book about autism that is sort of like addressing common misconceptions or like things that are often heard, and like looking at them and unpacking those. So I have those 2 that I would like to slowly work my way through. Then I have another nonfiction, which is a memoir, and that is Educated by Tara Westover, like a memoir about someone who grew up in a very like religious, very strict religious background, and so didn't have the chance to get a proper education, and how she did manage to educate herself and sort of got out of that very restrictive environment. Then I have a comic, Gaston pour l'honneur de, hang on, pour le cœur de Macquarie is the original French title. There's no English version of this, or at least not that I could find, but it's like a historical thing set in like India, I think, in the 17th century. And I wanted to try it. And then finally, I have a romance, and that is Dick Hint, Danny Brown, the second book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown in April, and I really liked it. So I want to continue on in the series. So I have this one. So those are all the books. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, and let me know what you plan on reading in the month of May. And then I'm gonna go because I have to leave like now. So I'll see you next time. Bye.